Hello everyone, myself Arvind Gaur, Assistant Professor Botany at S.B.R.M Government College, Nagaur, Rajasthan. In this video lecture, we will discuss about the general characteristic features of bryophytes. So first of all, we will discuss about the habitat and habit of bryophytic plants. It means where the bryophytic plants are usually found or occur. So when we talk about the distribution, so bryophytes are cosmopolitan in distribution, but they are not usually present in the marine environments, because in marine environment the amount of salt is very high, or we can say that the salt concentration in the water is very high. The bryophytic plants are terrestrial plants, but in the certain stages in the life cycle they require water, such as in the process of reproduction water is very essential, and bryophytic plants are usually grows in the moist and shady places where the plenty of water is available. And when we talk about the life cycle of bryophytic plant, that life cycle of these plants cannot be completed in the absence of water. It means water is very essential in their life cycle, as we discussed earlier in this point. These are some of the examples of bryophytic plants, such as Rixia fluitans. This is an truly aquatic bryophytic plant, and it is an underwater forms, Rixia fluitans. Another example is the sphagnum moss. The common name is the sphagnum moss is peat moss. This sphagnum moss is grown usually in bogs and marshy areas. Next is the porella. So this bryophyte is an epiphytic bryophyte. It means the porella can grow on tree trunks or main stem of other trees. Next example is Redula protensa. So this bryophyte is an example of epiphyllous bryophyte. It means epiphyllous means that it can grow on the surface of leaves. And another example is the Tortula desertorum. This bryophyte is a xerophytic bryophyte. It means it can grow in the conditions where the availability of water is very low. So such conditions are present in the desert. So Tortula desertorum is an xerophytic bryophyte. So these are some of the adaptations of bryophytes towards the terrestrial habitats, and this point says that bryophytes have rhizoids. So these rhizoids are root-like structure. As the root performs the function of water absorption in higher plants, so likewise rhizoid perform the function of water absorption from soil in bryophytic plant. So the presence of rhizoids is an adaptation of bryophytes towards the terrestrial habitat, and this point says that the epidermis of bryophytic plant is coated or covered with an waterproof waxy coating. It means an waxy covering is present on the epidermis of bryophytic plant, and this waxy covering prevent the water loss and protect these plant against desiccating conditions. It means water cannot be evaporated due to the presence of this waxy coating, which is waterproof. Next point is that the bryophytic plant possess stomata like structures, and these structures help these plants in the process of gaseous exchange. And the reproductive structures of the bryophytic plants are multicellular, and these structures are usually surrounded by an sterile jacket. So a sterile jacket is present around the multicellular reproductive organs of bryophytic plants. And when we talk about the process of reproduction, then the process of fertilization results in the formation of zygote, and this zygote remains inside the archegonium, and due to this phenomena, the zygote can get nutrition from this archegonium, and this helps in the development of sporophyte. So, after the process of fertilization, the zygote remain inside the archegonium to provide nutrition for the sporophytic development. So, these are the some of the features that helps bryophytic plants to live in the terrestrial conditions. So, this slide says that bryophytic plants are usually called as the amphibians of plant kingdom. So, first of all, we will discuss that amphibians in animal kingdom. So, when we talk about the amphibians of the animal kingdom, like this is a diagram of frog, which is comes under the amphibian group. So, these amphibians can live in water as well as in land or terrestrial condition. So, similarly, the bryophytic plant, which are called as the amphibians of plant kingdom. So, these bryophytic plants can grow well in the areas between water and terrestrial habitats. It means it can survive both under water and terrestrial habitats, and the area between the water and terrestrial habitat is known as amphibious zone. And bryophytes are dependent on the water to complete their life cycle, as we discussed earlier that in some events or phenomenon in the life cycle of Bryophyta requires water. So, on these points the bryophytes can be considered as amphibians of plant kingdom. So, this slide shows that why bryophytes are called as the amphibians of plant kingdom. So, as amphibians require water, so bryophytes are also dependent on water to complete their life cycle, and the water is very important factor for completion of their life cycle, and the water is required and essential in the these phenomenon or events in the life cycle of bryophytes. So, first is dehiscence of mature antheridia, and then liberation of anthrozoids from antheridia. So, antheridia is the male reproductive structure of bryophytes, and the anthrozoids are formed inside these antheridia. So, when these anthrozoids liberate from antheridia, they require water. So, water is essential in these phenomenon. Next is the transfer of anthrozoids from antheridia to archegonia. So, the anthrozoids are flagellated structures. They have to move towards archegonia for the process of fertilization. So, they require water. And next is the opening of archegonial neck. So, this phenomenon also require water. And next is the movement of flagellated anthrozoids into the archegonial neck. The anthrozoids which are formed in the antheridia are flagellated structure, so they can move in the water and travels towards archegonial neck. And so, on the basis of these points, we can say that bryophytes cannot complete their life cycle in the absence of water. So, they are called as the amphibians of plant kingdom. This slide shows the alternation of generations present in the bryophytic plant. So, first of all, we will talk about the gametophytic generation of bryophyte. So, the life cycle of Bryophyta consists of two type of generation. First is gametophytic generation and second is sporophytic generation. And both the generations like gametophytic and sporophytic generations are connected to each other physically. As we can see in this diagram that this is the gametophytic plant body and this is the sporophyte. So, these straighted structures are sporophyte and this flattened structure is gametophyte. So, both sporophyte and gametophyte are connected with each other physically, and we can also see in this diagram that the sporophyte are connected with this gametophytic plant body. So the gametophyte and sporophyte are physically connected, and the gametophytic generation and sporophytic generations are heteromorphic. It means they are morphologically dissimilar or distinct from each other. So the alternation of generations is present in bryophytic plant. So these are the some point about the gametophytic generation of bryophyte, in which the first point is that gametophytic generation is more conspicuous. It means it is more prominent phase in the life cycle of Bryophyta, and this generation is long lived. And the important feature about this generation is that it is independent. Independent means that the gametophytic generation possesses chlorophyll pigment, so they are autotrophic and green, so they can synthesize their own food. So in this scenario we can see that gametophytic generation is independent, and the gametophytic plant body is fleshy. When we talk about the lower forms of Bryophyta, then in these forms the gametophyte is not differentiated in root like, leaf like and stem like structure, and the main plant body is thalloid. So in lower forms of Bryophyta, gametophyte is undifferentiated and thalloid. And when we talk about the higher forms of Bryophyta, then the gametophyte in these higher forms is differentiated into root like, leaf like and stem like structures. And these are some of the characteristic features of sporophytic generation present in the Bryophyta. So when we compare the sporophytic generation with the gametophytic generation, we can say that sporophytic generation is less conspicuous phase. It means it is less prominent phase in the life cycle of Bryophyta, and sporophytic generation is short lived while the gametophytic generation is long lived. And sporophytic generation is completely dependent on gametophytic generation, because the sporophyte cannot be synthesize their own food because they lack chlorophyll pigment. So for nutrition, these sporophytic generations are dependent on the gametophytic plant for the nutrition, and the sporophyte are usually not differentiated into food. So the sporophytic generation is usually differentiated into food, seta and capsule. It means the three structures are usually present in the Sporophyta, sporophytic generation of Bryophyte, that is foot, seta and capsule. So these are some of the general characters of Bryophytes. Thank you.